Welcome, everyone. Before we dive into today's powerful conversation, I want to thank you for being a part of this incredible recovery after stroke community. Your support, whether it's by sharing the podcast, leaving a review, or simply tuning in each week, makes a huge difference. Together, we're creating a space where stroke survivors, caregivers, and allies can feel seen, heard, and supported. Since 2015, I've been personally covering all the costs of producing the podcast to make sure stroke survivors and their loved ones can access helpful and free recovery resources. And last year, I opened up the doors for those who want to support the show through Patreon. If you found value in these episodes and you want to support what I do, head to patreon.com/recovery after stroke. Also, a quick reminder about my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened. It is available on Amazon. It's become a helpful guide for many stroke survivors and families, especially during the harder parts of recovery. You can find it by searching my name, Bill Gasiamis, or going to recoveryafterstroke.com/book. Now, I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Lorenzo Price. Lorenzo is a musician, a former tattoo artist, and a stroke survivor whose story is as raw as it is inspiring. After an AVM rupture caused vision loss and delayed diagnosis, he's been rebuilding his life through faith, community, and resilience. In this conversation, Lorenzo opens up about navigating tough emotions, adapting to new challenges, and holding on to creativity and hope even when things got dark. Let's jump in. Lorenzo Price, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. I wanted to get a bit of a sense of what life was like before stroke. Tell me about Lorenzo, what he got up to, how he went about life before stroke.
Yeah, before my stroke, I was a body piercer and a tattoo artist and a musician full time. That's what I did. So I heavily relied on my vision and my senses that way. I worked downtown in Cartersville where I lived for a really great tattoo shop. Things were going awesome. Things were going really well, and then boom, all of a sudden, I woke up. There was really like no kind of lead up to it. It just sort of happened.
Wow. How old
But
were you?
life was, I'm 30. Well, when it happened, I was 34. I'm 36 now.
Mhm. So that's a pretty unique combination of things to be employed in or to be doing. So how did that all fit into your daily life? Tattoo artist, piercer, which I imagine happens at the same place, roughly
Yep.
at the same time of day, and then musician were. Tell me about like how one of your days would
Well,
unfold or one of your weeks.
well, mostly, I'd go check into the piercing shop, around 11, and I'd be there till 8 o'clock at night most days. On my off times, on if I didn't have anything to do on the weekend, I would be on a gig playing music. I actually did that for a lot longer than I did the tattooing and piercing. I was a musician for the majority of my life. The tattooing and piercing thing came later after COVID.
What kind of instrument do you play?
I play guitar and I'm sorry, I play guitar and piano and bass and drums.
Fair enough. You're a little prolific when it comes to music, by the sound of it.
So I love it.
So your tattoo work, did you find that you were very skillful in being a tattoo artist out of the blue? How did you come into that? Why did you move into that part of the role?
Um, I was always an artist my whole life since I was a little kid. I was into drawing, and when COVID happened and I moved back up here to Georgia from from I'm sorry, from Fort Myers, Florida, where I was gigging most of the time. Um, I happened to know some people, and he needed somebody to help, and I just happened to be that help. I started piercing. After a while, I needed a tattoo, and I asked him for one. When he asked me for the image, that I wanted tattooed. I gave him an image, and it was a drawing of mine. And he asked me, he said, who drew this? I said, oh, I did. And he was like, wait a second, like he's known me since I'm like 13. He's like, you've been able to draw this whole time? And I was like, yeah. He said, well, I need a new tattoo artist. He's like, would you like to apprentice for that? And so I did, and it came pretty naturally, pretty easy. It was great. I really, really loved doing it. Loved piercing. Loved working on tattoos. Loved music too.
So what's it like going from a paper drawing and then using the ink and the tattoo gun to put the image on a skin? How do you transition to that? Is it easy?
It was pretty easy, honestly. But it was easy because I guess I came from a musical background, so I knew how to practice. So I would practice like 10 hours a day, every day, until I just got it down. But when it's on regular skin, it's just a matter of having to stretch the skin versus a piece of paper that's always sort of static.
Uh-huh. Are there people who you've tattooed who have a not so good tattoo that had to be a guinea pig?
Yes, most of that is me. My legs are totally covered in guinea pig tattoos, and a couple of friends, my mom included.
Wow. That's a lot of trust in somebody who isn't expert at tattooing yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Tell me a little bit about that transition from working as a tattoo artist, a musician on the daily. Like, what happened when you finish your 8 hour shift and then go and play a gig?
Yeah, so it was a mixture of things. I also taught music, so sometimes I would teach early in the day. So I could, I might be teaching in the morning and then do my piercing stuff or tattooing stuff in the afternoon, or an afternoon gig and then go to a late night gig. So my days were very full for most of my life. I just kind of woke up and got going right away and didn't stop until I didn't have any gas left.
Well, you are properly busy, man. What kind of genre of music did you guys play?
Honestly, like I know you probably hear this a lot, but all genres. I love jazz and funk and rock and blues, and I love it all. I went to the Atlanta Institute of Music. I studied music there and got my associates there. Um, and I just learned to love all styles of music.
So, was it a band that you
Performance wise,
formed?
some of them were. Some of them were. I had a bunch of different bands. Majority of them were cover bands. That's where the money was, and I had a family to take care of. So, but yeah, a couple of the bands are mine. And then I would join a lot of other people's bands and just be like a utility guy for them.
Uh, Hence, why it was really good to have that ability to play multiple instruments.
Yes, and like have a knowledge for the different genres and like how they work together.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Can you describe the moment when you started to realize there was something wrong with
Yeah,
your
I
health? Or
can.
Lorenzo's story is a reminder that resilience doesn't mean being fearless. It means moving forward even when it's hard. Let's take a quick pause. And if you've been finding value in these kinds of conversations, here's how you can help keep them going. The podcast exists to create a space for stroke survivors and their families to feel heard, encouraged, and uplifted. If it's been helpful to you, consider supporting it through Patreon. You'll be joining a group of people who believe in the power of lived experience and recovery. You can learn more at patreon.com/recovery after stroke. Now let's get back to Lorenzo as he shares more about rebuilding identity, leaning into faith, and finding new purpose after stroke.
So, um, in 2000, it actually, the moment I realized there was something wrong with me, was in 2015, which was years before my hemorrhage happened. Um, I was on a I was on a cruise line ship with my family, and I went to go dancing, and the next thing I know, I woke up with the nurses and paramedics that were on the ship line. Like they told me they didn't know what happened, that I just like kind of freaked out, um, and they had no explanation for it, but they said that they had given me a shot to put me to sleep because they didn't understand what was happening. My family didn't either, and neither did I. Like I don't even remember this incident, but I just remember waking up and um, having no idea how I got where I was or what had happened or where my family was or anything. And then they just told me what happened. They told me that the night prior, I came knocking on my dad's room, and he said that he thought that I had a nervous breakdown. He said I was screaming and yelling and like totally like that he couldn't understand what I was saying. And that's when they called the people, and they gave me a shot and put me to sleep that night. But after that, when we got back home, um, I started having these really weird waves. I guess I would call them, that was happening on the right side of my face.
Waves
It was
of
like it was like a, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of like the way a cold chill would feel, but more internal. And it would sort of like pulse this right side of my temple, and then it
mhm.
would vibrate, and then have this wave that would go down my whole body. Um, and that kind of got worse and worse over years and years and years. Um, when I got to the neurologist here in Georgia, it was at Kaiser Permanente. They gave me an MRI and a CT, and with not just like a regular CT and MRI, no contrast or anything, no angiogram, and they just said that there was nothing wrong with me, and so that turned into them sending me to a psychiatrist because they thought I had psychological issues, this was all something I was making up in my mind. Um, but I knew it, and I went to doctors over and over and over again. I went to doctors in Cape Coral, doctors in Woodstock, Georgia. I went to doctors in Kennesaw and Atlanta, and time again, I was turned away. Like they would always say basically the same thing to me. We can give you something for your anxiety, but like there's nothing wrong with you, they would say. Um, but I could feel it. I knew that there was something wrong with me. Like, and I kept requesting a neurologist over and over and over again, and they kept sending me to different doctors. First it was the psychiatrist, then the psychiatrist sent me to the neck and spine specialist. The neck and spine specialist sent me back to the psychiatrist, who saw me have an episode in her office, and she got me hooked up with the neurologist. And that was in September of September of 2000 and 2021. I saw a neurologist finally, so it took like 6 years to get me to one that was like taking me seriously. His name was Dr. Pearlstein, and he told me um, that he believed there was something, that I had some kind of mass in my head, that I was having. He saw the videos and saw me having episodes and said that I was having seizures, and that somebody my age with no history shouldn't be. That we needed to go get these tests run at Emory in Atlanta. But shortly shortly after finally seeing him and getting these tests set up for me, unfortunately, like my wife at the time, uh, she she was with me at the doctor and found out and kind of just threw me out of my home and canceled my bank account and canceled my health insurance, so I couldn't go back to the doctor. And like it was madness. And I tried to go back afterwards, but I didn't have insurance anymore, so like they wouldn't take me. Um, but yeah, so it was kind of a really exhausting situation. Um, right before I had my hemorrhage, um, I finally got set up for um, all the scans that I was supposed to get set up for. My family was going to pay for it. My mom was, and it was just like too late by that point.
Dude. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. You know there's something wrong. You're feeling it, you're experiencing it. They tell you to go and see a psychiatrist. What is it like to be at a psychiatrist when you know there is something wrong physically in your body and they're trying to do the psychiatric thing? What is that like, that experience like? What the hell happens um in a consultation of that nature when you are certain that there's something wrong with you and they're telling you it's all imagined?
They it feels like the ultimate dismissal, like like I'm being betrayed by the doctor and medical system. That's what it felt like because I knew it, like I knew it so hard, like, and I could never quite explain what I was feeling to people or what was happening, but like they always boiled it down to that I was anxious, and I would tell them again and again. I saw 4 or 5 different psychiatrists because I kept getting into arguments with them, and I would tell them the same thing, like there's something wrong with me, like I need to see a neurologist, like, and again and again, I guess maybe my demeanor because I was getting upset, maybe they agreed with them. I'm not sure why, but it was the most frustrating experience of my life, and it led, it never, the answers never got solved
Yeah.
until the catastrophe happened. And I actually spoke to my vascular neurologist recently about this because he wanted me to do a testimony at CHI Memorial Hospital, who I've heard one of the people on your podcast. I think I can't remember what happened. He had like a steroid issue or something and gave him a stroke.
Yes,
I
yes.
believe he, so it's the same hospital, and Dr. Thomas Devlin up there is incredible because after years and years and years and years and emergency room visit after doctor visit of different doctors, like I can't even explain to you how many doctors I saw to try to figure out what was wrong with me. Um, he literally just did what you're doing right now. He just listened to me. I told him what was going on, how it happened, and he said, "You're 34 years old," and he said, "Don't lie to me." He said, "Do you do drugs?" I said, Dr. Devlin, on my children, I do not. I've never done any drugs. I said, except for marijuana. And he said, marijuana didn't do this to you. He said, a 34-year-old with no history of drug use or any head trauma, anything. He said, it has to be, he said, you have an AVM. He said, that's what you have. And you need to get an arteriogram done. Has anybody given you an arteriogram ever? And I said, no. And he said, that's what you need. He said, because I'm telling you, that's what you have. And they gave me an arteriogram, and that's what I have.
Wow, man.
Like he was like Dr. House, the way he just like listened and like just put the puzzle together and just told me before anybody ran another test on me. Just told me exactly what it was. He knew.
Perfect
It was
30-minute
amazing.
episode of House.
Yeah.
Come in, weird guy presenting with all this stuff. Everyone thinks he's crazy. I know, let's just
Yeah.
ask some strange questions. Yep, it's definitely that. Solve the problem, 30 minutes, we're done. Go home, everyone's happy.
Yeah. It was wild. Dr. Thomas Devlin, like he saved my life. I love him. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that like he just put it together that quickly after like all of these years and all like you wouldn't believe the losses that have come from this. Like
So when you got the result, when Dr. Devlin kind of said what he said and then it was confirmed, was that a blow to you, or was it a relief or some kind of
It
a,
was it was the absolute biggest relief of my life. It was the biggest relief of my life because I had I have lost my family and friends and my home and everything over nobody believing me.
but you've got a serious health issue. Your life is
Yeah,
at risk. You've got a blood vessel in your brain that could burst anytime. And you reckon that was a relief getting that news? That's insane.
yeah. It was a relief. It was an absolute relief. Kind of like you always say, you're the stroke. How it was one of the best things that's ever happened to you, right? Like knowing like this happening to me and knowing that I wasn't insane, that
Mm.
there really was something wrong and
Mhm.
that they were able to find it. Like it was, it just felt like the weight of the world came off my shoulders.
Yeah, that would have been heavy. And that whole other people not believing you would be, well, I just imagine myself going through would be crippling, like not being able to convince somebody that you're completely right would be crippling.
Yep,
You're emotionally, mentally, and it would be impacting negatively on you physically, and it wouldn't be helping the AVM. It would be making matters worse in your brain as well, right? So,
absolutely.
what if you can, if you're happy to talk about it and comfortable talk about it, what was the catalyst that meant that your relationship with your wife ended? How did that come about? Was there stuff before stroke that was sort of still bubbling away that
Well,
led it
ever
to end,
since
or was it something else?
it was ever since my that first seizure I explained to you in 2015
Hmm.
that I had, we just sort of had a steady but slow decline from there. Like she just didn't, she wouldn't believe me, and I couldn't trust her anymore. I couldn't trust somebody who couldn't believe me. Like I was, I was her husband, and like just that coming together. And when she told me to leave my home, I was just absolutely wrecked. Like I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take like this is how far nobody trusted me. Nobody would give me the benefit of the doubt. Even my wife at that time.
Wow.
My my family members, some of them, me and my dad have had a tough time because of it. Um, you know, my little brother's the best, and but it's caused a lot of
Mm,
a lot of tension
yeah. It
because
sounds like
you know,
it sounds like a betrayal of something. Can you pinpoint the betrayal, what it was that you felt? Isn't even the right word, betrayal? Is it something else? How would you describe that situation? Because I have deficits that are not visible, which sounds like you might have too. That means that people don't know that I've had a stroke. They don't know how serious my condition is. And they're not betraying my relationship with them, their trust, their belief in me and my story, what I'm saying. But they can't connect the dots. Stroke doesn't look normal. You look normal, bro. So
yeah,
I kind of have this feeling of forever feeling um the real word is misunderstood, but it goes a bit deeper to your core. Like it feels like I'm also, you know, not believed, even though
yeah.
that's not really true. So how was it for you? Was it betrayal? Was there another word that you would describe that kind of breakdown in those relationships?
You know, for me, honestly, like betrayal feels like the only right word because like I'm not a perfect person, nobody is, but I've done
Mhm.
my best to be the best that I can to everybody in my life, my whole life. So when these things started happening to me, and when Dr. Pearlstein finally said, "Yeah, you're having seizures. I think there's something in your mind, in your brain," and still nobody believed me, I just felt like I deserved the benefit of the doubt. Like I've been good. Like I haven't harmed anyone, and nothing I'm doing is harming anybody. Like why won't any of my family believe me? My own dad
Mm.
wouldn't believe me. My own wife wouldn't believe me. that there was
Mm,
something wrong. They both thought that I was losing my mind, that I had some sort of serious psychiatric condition going on.
yeah,
So
man.
to me, betrayal seems like the only right word.
Yeah. I I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Honestly am. I feel like it should have never have happened, but I think it stems from ignorance more than anything else and people's inability to grasp a concept that they can't see. I mean, it's almost like being an atheist. You can kind of understand why an atheist is an atheist. Well, you're telling me about God and all those kind of things, but I can't see, touch it, feel it, whatever. And therefore, I choose not to believe in a being that I can't touch, see, or feel that is
Mhm.
supposedly controlling my life and making my life better or making somebody else's life worse or whatever. Like you kind of get the atheist discussion. And this kind of
Mhm.
feels like similar. They can't touch, feel, see it. They just see you. They judging you on your behavior, on your attitude, on your frustration, on the way that you're interacting with them. And they're making a call and they're feeling like perhaps you're deceiving them and they're going, this dude's being deceitful and he's doing all that kind of stuff. When at the same time you're feeling that, you can see how quickly and easily a wedge can be brought between two people.
Absolutely. Like it impressed me, and I was living it. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I was, people in my family are calling me a drug addict all of a sudden. You're on drugs. I know you're on drugs, and I'm not.
Wow.
Like, and I'm not. And yeah, like it is ignorant. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. And then you've received a diagnosis. What's the next step? So what happens after that? Now you know what's going on. The medical intervention starts to kick in. What happens after the diagnosis?
So after the diagnosis, which was a year after my hemorrhage, after that, Dr. Devlin set me up to go and meet a guy named Dr. Cleary at Erlanger. He's a radiation oncologist, and they performed an SRS on the AVM itself to try
What's
to
an SRS?
a Cyber knife radiation treatment.
Yep.
Basically, like a targeted X-rays, like super high dose X-rays. I think I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure, but it's something along the lines of that.
Yeah. It's
And
it's
they
laser. It's a laser radiation therapy that's designed to change the DNA of the AVM to kind of make it like dissolve or dissipate or stop working and disappear.
and that's the whole idea. That was in um, August, last August, so it's been almost a year since I had the SRS done.
And then and then what happened? How did that continue to evolve?
So since then, things have kind of gotten a little better. Um, you know, my Dr. Devon put together a great team of doctors for me. So I've got a great epilepsy doctor who takes care of my seizures. So my seizures have I haven't had one now since May. So like I'm like that's a long time for me. Like I haven't had a seizure since May. So it was May, June, July, August. So yeah, like 10 months now since I've had a seizure. But and I feel like I've been doing great since then. You know, I'm still in physical therapy for my legs that have fallen a couple of times.
Oh,
Um, and I still do some speech therapy um, for like the way that I read out loud. I read out loud kind of funny. There's like some kind of like weird connection there.
mm-hmm,
Like I feel like I can hold like a fair conversation, but I have a little bit of an issue reading things out loud.
mm-hmm.
So they put me back in that. But it's just been, follow up scans, follow up with the doctor, and it's just been kind of that, like every 3 months or so.
Mhm.
So I see Dr. Devlin, and then I see Dr. Giassi, who actually did the arteriogram on me, um, who's also an incredible man and doctor. Um, like he explained it to me the like the best way that I think anybody could have. Because he came to me after my arteriogram with a giant iPad to show me what the AVM looked like. And he said, you have an AVM in your brain. Um, and I just told him, I said, you got to go tell my mom. You got to let her know. Like she's downstairs worried to death. He said, I saw her hours ago. Um, but then we started talking about it. And I said, so what is this thing? And he explained how it's a congenital malformation, something you're born with. And I was like, I told him, I was like, I exercise, like I eat fairly well, like I don't understand. And he said, Lorenzo, no matter where you were, no matter what you were doing at that moment in time, this is always going to happen to you had you not had some intervention prior. And like, I don't know, that made me feel better for some reason.
It's a small consolation because you weren't responsible for causing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
And,
that.
and
I like that. That's a good thing, man. I mean, I was partly responsible for making the environment around my AVM worse. So I smoked, I drank, I worked too many hours. I was just stress head, all sorts of things. And I kind of created the perfect storm for it to pop, or to bleed or whatever. But the reality is that an AVM, for a lot of people, and often this is what's weird. They can occur anywhere in your body. They don't just
Mhm.
occur in the head. But I've never come across or heard of anyone having had an AVM that bled in a different part of the body, skin, muscles, you know, it's possible for them to occur anywhere. So, and most of the time they're benign. They just sit back, chill out, do nothing. Most people who have them won't know they have them unless they play up. And they tend to play up at middle age, between, say, 35 and 45. The amount of people who I've interviewed whose AVM has played up somewhere around the age of 40 it's ridiculous. It's a pattern that continues to evolve. Um, and then there are a few people who I've met whose AVM caused problems way earlier than that. Uh, so it's a small consolation prize when somebody says you didn't do this to yourself. It would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
It's random.
Yeah. Like all the bad news felt like good news
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
Like it,
Everything's
it
upside down and all over the place. So what was life like after stroke? So before stroke, everything's busy. Uh, Jobs, morning to the end of the day, gigs, tattooing, piercing, the works.
yep.
What
Playing
about,
with my children.
yeah, your children, your wife, and then the contrast begins with the relationship breakdown. How did your interaction with your kids change?
Um, it changed immensely. Like my I'm I'm not as capable as I was. So I can't drive to go and pick them up like I used to be able to. There's a lot of things that I'm being held back on that unfortunately I'm not getting help on the other side. Like that their mother told them that I don't have seizures, that I am not partially blind, and then they believed that, and they believed that that was the reason why I wasn't coming to see them.
Okay. I hate it when
So it was
parents do that to kids. Such a terrible thing to split kids from their parents in any way. Like it's ridiculous.
it's horrible. Like it's absolutely horrible. They don't Children don't deserve that.
No.
I've done my best to like remedy as much of that as I can, and when I have them, like um we I basically play like speech therapy games with them and brain games with them to keep them occupied and have fun. So like, and I try to teach them how to use my 'cause I got to walk with a walking stick because I can't really see. I have this thing. It's called left. It's a big. It's called left homonymous hemianopsia is what it's called from the damage to my right occipital parietal lobe region.
Hmm.
So all of the information that's coming into my eyes from the left doesn't compute. Like so, it's like there's nothing. It's not black. It's just like there's nothing there.
Yeah,
So, and it's really strange. But I've just kind of when I have them now, I give them their own little sticks. Like here, use the stick. Come walk with me, and I try to make it fun. So like I don't want this to be like a tragedy to them. I try to make it so like, hey, let's learn something. I've taught them all about seizures. I've taught them all about blindness. I taught them all about strokes, and I try to keep them, as informed as possible, but not scared.
I like that. Yeah, that's cool, man. And work situation is totally different than what it was before now.
Yeah, I used to work, 18, 20 hours a day. Now I'm at home. I'm disabled. Like I can't drive. I can't really do it anymore. The vision deficit is the absolute worst of it. Um, it just makes things incredibly challenging. Like even centering myself on this camera was difficult. Like it's that with the seizures and it's just it's been a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a lot to deal with.
Is your vision blurry? How is it?
So
Other
the
than
the
that,
area
other than that part that's missing that you don't have anymore, the areas that you do have, what's that vision like?
it's blurry.
Blurry.
Yeah, it's blurry. Like I've got some lenses that help a little bit, but not great. I'm supposed to get prisms soon, prism lenses soon, from a neuro optometrist up
Hmm.
in Chattanooga. So I'll be doing that soon, and they think that might help some of that. I'm not really sure how they work,
Yeah.
but it might help some of this left stuff. But the center, even what I can see is still blurry. It's not sharp. It's kind of like you're like I can see like the silhouette of your face right now,
Hmm.
like no details.
I'm a good looking guy, mate.
I'm sure.
Yeah. You wouldn't know if I wasn't, but I am. I really am.
I believe you. Yeah,
Um,
my eyes are blurry because not only do I have this brain damage in the occipital region and my optic nerves from the from the intracranial pressure got squeezed,
yeah.
and then this eye hemorrhaged also.
Uh-huh.
So I had a hemorrhage in my right eye, and my optic nerves got damaged, and then so did my lobes back here. So it's just, but it's like you said, it's kind of a like I try to carry myself in a way that like nobody really knows unless I tell them.
Yeah.
It's a
I just
what do you
love
call it?
that about you. I love that about you. But it doesn't sound like you're doing the I'm holding it all in and not talking about it thing, which is different. Some people don't share, don't say so that they appear normal or whatever that
Mhm.
means, to people so that no one knows. Whereas you're kind of like, I'm just going to go about doing things the way I need to do things to get things done. And then
Yep.
if the situation necessitates it, well, then I'll elaborate on what's going on for me, why I carry a cane and why I'm struggling with my vision or something. I love that approach. It's kind of just getting on with business by the sound of it.
Yes. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. It's like my mom always tells me, like, what else are you gonna do? Like, you got to
Yeah.
do it.
I mean, that's so true. There's nothing else you can do. Did you, I did, but did you ever have this is not happening moment? What were the internal battles like? How did you comprehend what was happening to you and then what you had to deal with, the sudden changes of all the things that you had to deal with?
Um, so I don't know if this is healthy or not, but um, I have just almost immediately accepted it. Like it was like I had this moment where this nurse woke me up from the coma in the hospital. Her name was Chloe. I went back and met her. So, and um, she woke me up in the hospital and told me that I had been in a coma and where I was. And I just had like this immediate thought in my head. And like instead of like panic or like, oh my God, like what's happening? Like I just had this moment of like clarity, like, wow, I've wasted a lot of time in my life being upset, being mad. I just like and ever since that moment, ever since I came home, I've just maintained this like it's all good. I accept this and I can do this. And I think that a lot of people don't have that kind of um
Extreme
mindset.
acceptance.
Yeah, I guess it's extreme, but it's I just also know that it could crush me if I let it. And it seems like there's really only two options. I either let this thing like crush me or I do the best I can to be as good as I can with my life the way it is now.
No, I love that, man. It is extreme acceptance is probably my word. I don't know if it's totally your word and 100% appropriate, but you said you're not sure if it's healthy or not. I mean, it's properly healthy to accept something and then move on with it and find solutions to problems than focus on problems without looking for the solutions, you know?
Yeah. And that's yeah, you're absolutely right. Like I just don't feel like there's time to dwell on the things that can make me sad. I can't do anything about that. You know, I can do if I could do right now, I can reach out to you and ask you about your podcast. I can take an Uber to see a friend. I can hang out with my kids on Friday night and Saturday. And like and I just look forward to those things instead of like pushing it all in, which I think a lot of people are afraid that I'm doing.
Mm,
But I'm not. Like I honestly don't feel depressed or upset or anxious
mm.
or sad. If I get in a mood where I do feel like, this kind of sucks, I'll sit down and I'll write something, like either like a journal entry on my phone or my iPad, or I'll write some music and like just kind of channel it that way. But I don't like I don't know, I just don't want to. I got to be a really good example for my children.
I love that.
I don't want them to look at their dad and see, this disabled guy who can't do anything, who's let this beat him. I want them to see me and have an example for themselves. So when they grow up, if something ever does happen to them or someone they love, like they know that there's like they could do better, and I'm going to keep doing better because of it.
I love it. I love it. That's me as well. Like, I always thought about the kids and how do I go about presenting the after a serious, medical issue occurs? How do you present that to them so that they can touch wood in their time when they come across some difficulties with health or whatever, that they've got an example to model or to lean on or to use as one way to go about it when if they saw the other version, the one there, I'm losing my shit where I can't cope with everything and when I haven't come to terms with what I'm dealing with, it's like, why show them that version of it? Not that I didn't have bad days, tough times, and intermittent issues. I let them play out, and then I moved on from them. So they saw me cry, get frustrated, angry, mad, all of those things. But then they saw me bounce back, overcome, and then transform it into a podcast, into a book, into all those things. And it's like,
Yeah, it's amazing what you've done.
yeah, it's very different than just sort of sitting back and letting it take over my entire life. It does live with me every day. Like it's the gift that keeps on giving for sure, numbness, wake up in the middle of the night, balance issues, checking, whether my foot's on the ground, muscle tightness, never feeling comfortable in my body, on the left side and all that type of thing, needing constant massages, needing therapy and all sorts of things. But I kind of also did that. Well, this is what I've got to deal with. I've got to find a way to live with it, adjust, modify the way I go about life, um, and just sort of. This is going to sound weird, like appreciate the opportunity to view life from a completely different perspective and lens.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's hard for people to hear. Some stroke survivors may not resonate with that, and I get it's totally cool. But it's like, I don't know, like it's offered it's more depth. If I can't give it a better word, a different, more amazing word, at least offered more depth in how I viewed life or how I experienced life. I don't know if some people are not
I feel
comfortable
the
with
same
that.
way.
Yeah.
I do. Like things taste better, things smell better.
Mm.
I've had this. I talked to Dr. McCaleb, David. He's the guy who actually did my craniotomy. And literally saved my life that day. But he and I talk a lot. I see him often. And I've got this thing that we talk about where, like, I have this get to attitude a lot. Like, even when, like, I know I got to go and kill my legs in therapy, like, I don't have to do it. Like, I get to do it. And, like, that kind of perspective helps me a lot. Because I might have, like, for a whole day ahead of me that's just a nightmare. But, like, I get to do this instead of having to. And it makes my outlook a little bit better. Get to just think of things that way. Like I don't have to do anything. Like I get to do it all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. How old are the kids now?
They're 5 and 8.
Ah, they're very
So
little.
they're very little. Yeah. So when this happened, they were 2, almost 3 and 5.
Yeah, right. Well, that's really cool that you can still have them in your life and they can be part of your, Fridays and Saturdays and whatever comes later because that will evolve and emerge as well and that might pick up and improve. Um, and man, and they're kind of lucky to have you around, but also lucky to have this version of you, which is so curious about how to go about this new way of life and you're discovering things that you never knew before. You've let go of a lot of things though. So what is it like? How did you go about kind of getting your head around having to let go of tattooing and to let go of the other things that you were doing that were important and interesting?
Yeah, those things took a little bit longer for sure. I was in love with my job. I loved what I did. So having to get used to not doing that again, it felt like I lost a whole part of my identity, like just like stripped from me.
Mm.
Like, I don't know if that makes any sense. But like
Yeah.
I was like me, like I was the tattoo artist, piercing musician guy. Like that's who I was professionally. Like so like waking up from a coma and my apartment's gone, my job's gone, and like it's just like now I'm living at home again and all of that's behind me. Um, it just was a struggle. That was a struggle for a while to like accept the fact like I'm not gonna be able to do this anymore. I can't tattoo. I can't see enough to tattoo, and it's just like it killed me a little bit on the inside. It really did because drawing is what I've always done like, since I'm a little kid, and not being able to draw, like it just took a huge part of me away. But I've channeled that into writing. I always like to write, so now since I can't draw, like I try to write a lot, um, and that's been really helpful.
What do you like to write about at the moment?
I've been writing all about my experiences. I've been posting them on my Facebook for like the last like 8 months or so. So they're just just stories or freestyle poetry, um, just all just all about this whole thing, all about my stroke and strokes in general, and what it was like to be in a coma, you know, and types of questions people ask me. It's all about that stuff.
Do you see this body of work getting compiled in some way, shape, or form in the future, becoming a book?
Um, I think it could. I think maybe it could be one day. You're not the first person to ask me. Um, I think that um, with some help organizing it, maybe it could be.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
I think the material's good. I think that I just try to, I'm not good at like A B B, like rhyme this or rhyme that.
You're a bit all over
So,
the
and I never
place.
have it. Yeah, so like I just kind of like write it like a letter almost,
I hear you.
but not
Could,
to anybody.
yeah, it could be a memoir to yourself, the days that you wrote individual stories or feelings or expressions, that could be fine too. Uh, there's no such thing as the perfect format book, like it, I think it's more interesting and more raw to have a blow by blow, day by day kind of linear experience of what somebody who's going through what you're going through might have experienced, or had happen to them, and the thoughts and the things you overcome and all that. Like it could work really well.
Yeah,
I was just curious about that.
definitely something that I've definitely been considering it because I've been asked multiple times. Um, I just just got to organize it all, I guess, and get to an editor. I don't know. Like I can write and I have my friends like, hey, check this out. Will you help me edit it?
Yeah,
So I'll have them help me that way. Um, but yeah, like I think getting it into a book format could be really, hopefully, maybe inspiring for people,
it would be.
at least for my kids one day.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I would love that. I would love to see that happened, or that it didn't happen. It doesn't matter, but it was a great idea to sort of contemplate and think about, because if you're writing and you're putting it somewhere like online, there's no reason why you can't transfer that onto paper and just bind it and turn it into something with a little bit of support, help, a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of refining, whatever it is. There'll be plenty of people that might be able to advise you on that and support you with that. Just when the time comes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm really fortunate with like the support that I have. Like the people that are around me are all my mom, my brother, my sister, my dad, everybody, even my neurosurgeon.
Yeah,
Like I've formed a really great relationship with him. He, like you spoke earlier, I believe, about your sort of comparing like uh, like an atheist.
yeah,
Before the stroke happened, I was the total atheist. I was like I didn't believe in God. I didn't see any room for it at all. And then this brilliant Catholic surgeon named Dr. David McCaleb like saved my life. Like and then offered me some room in his to like get to know him and a way to play some music because he plays music. So like now like I can go to his house and he'll hop on the piano and I can play some music with him. And he was really helped me. And after getting to know him, and I made a decision one day. I went to his office and I just went there to thank him. I asked my mom to drive me up there. I was like, I want to thank Dr. McCaleb. And I said, Dr. McCaleb, um, thank you. Like you saved my life. I feel like the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Like there couldn't possibly be anybody luckier than me. And he said to me, he said, Lorenzo, he said, you weren't just lucky that this worked out. He said, you were lucky to have me as your surgeon. He said, because most other surgeons would have let you go. But I had to fight for you, with I guess the higher ups to keep me on. I guess the medication's very expensive. I guess it's expensive to keep somebody in a coma.
Mhm.
So, and he told me, and he said, by the way, he said, there's no such thing as luck. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he said, when he was younger as a surgeon, that a nurse told him that there was no such thing as luck, that there was only God's grace and God's mercy. And that just resonated with me so heavy. And like I went from like this non-believing atheist to Dr. McCaleb, would you confirm me? So like this man saved my life twice. He took me to the Catholic Church, and I went to the RCIA, basically like an adult catechism, and he was my sponsor for it. And it's like it's it's just cool. It's really cool. He's been an amazing person to have gained in my life. So I might have lost some people. Like I've gained some really great people.
No, you definitely have. And it- when people go through an existential crisis, oftentimes they go one way or another. They find God, religion, whatever, or they move away from it. And it doesn't really matter which way you go or why you go that way. What I love is that what you've found is some, what's the word, something positive out of it, some strength, some deeper meaning. And that's what's really good about it. That's useful and helpful in recovery and helping somebody get through. The idea of faith, wherever that comes from, is like a faith in a surgeon who's going to open up your head, faith in a hospital system, faith that everything will be okay, faith in, even if you don't associate it and attach it back to God, faith in God, it's a really powerful thing to experience, to be able to fully have faith in something working out, even if you can't see the way forward, even if you can't understand how it's going to be okay. You have to start with faith. If you don't have faith in something, well, then the path forward is going to be a lot harder to unfold and see and develop and walk and walk.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's honestly coming into the church, bringing this into my life has been a wonderful experience too. Like I never thought that I could embrace it the way I have.
Mm,
Like it's been great for me.
mm,
And there's a stroke support group at the church too that I attend.
bonus.
Um, and they're all very nice people. Varying ages. You know, found my age all the way up till to my grandparents' ages. All different stories, and it's been really nice for me. Like it's been making me feel better. Like like I said, I haven't been letting this thing beat me up. I'm not gonna let it defeat me, and I haven't been letting it.
Yeah. What was the
Just been
hardest part?
channeling it.
Was it
The
physically
hardest
or
part,
yeah, was it physically, emotionally? Was it mental? What was the hardest part for you, do you feel?
the vision was
Okay.
is still and what was the hardest part, and especially in the beginning. Um, for like the first year, um, in this right eye over here, there was a big black spot in it from the retina hemorrhage that happened, and noticing it was way worse than it is now. Like now, like I can't tell you where I'm missing the spots. I know just from knowing, but like it feels normal for me. But where when I first came home from the hospital and for like that first year probably, like it was just black on this side, just a big black, like a broken television. And having to adjust my vision and getting used to not being able to see, like that's still the worst part. But it could be 10 times worse than it is. So like it's not that bad.
I love that. You're such a positive guy. Like everything is half glass full, but there would have been dark moments, a couple of dark moments, one maybe. Was there any dark moments, and how did you get through them?
I I think that this is why I say I'm not sure if it's healthy or not because I just haven't had that
That's
moment.
it's good.
I
That's
haven't had
good.
that moment where like I broke down, like, and I don't know if I'm going to. I don't like. I know that like people around me, like my dad or like my friends, they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, totally fine. You know, and like I honestly feel like that's the truth. Like I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna break down, and I haven't.
Mm.
And
Beautiful, man. I love
I
that.
just
It's the true answer
yeah.
as well. You know, you come across people, how you doing? And they always say, I'm good, I'm fine. And they're not really,
Mhm.
that's just their default response. If you're truly good and fine, and that's the answer, man, that's brilliant. I love that. That is why not? I mean, it's a skill to teach people and to master. And if I could model that version of a stroke survivor's mindset, like bottle that and then just hand it out in droves and people just took that and then that's what they had. I mean, wow, you've been through so much and it's still like that. It is the ultimate stoic philosophy in practice. I'm not sure if you know much about the Stoics, but it's like, what's good about this? Or what can I learn from this? Or how can I evolve from this? It's always, your questions always seem to be about how to transform whatever it is that you've experienced into something more meaningful. Something just popped into my head. Tell me what you think about this idea. You know how tattoos are a trend and all these kind of different styles and all these things are a trend and you see them happen. What if you become the first visually impaired tattoo artist and you get some brave souls to allow you to tattoo them visually impaired?
It might not be a bad idea. There might be a market out there for that.
I reckon there is. I've often come across artists, people who draw, etc. And one of the things that kind of, breaks my heart a little bit is when they say I can't paint, draw anymore because of my vision or my hand. And I'm like, dude, like you should be painting and drawing with the skills that you have, the way that your brain artistically works, which is the that doesn't go away in this new version of yourself with this new way that you see the world and express the world. I figured that what that would do is kind of give a deeper insight and create a unique perspective into things that visually, um, quote unquote, normal people can't see or comprehend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
do.
and it doesn't matter what you um that it doesn't look traditional or whatever. It just matters that what you're doing is still applying your technical knowledge in this new visual way because of the way that you've been impacted. And I often reflect back on one of the most famous female artists, Frida Kahlo from
Yes.
Mexico, who
Mexico.
started painting when she became injured and expressed her challenges and all that kind of stuff in the most unique way. And as a result of that, her work has become renowned across the world for 100 years. I don't know. I just feel like that's something that people should explore. People who have previously been quote unquote normal and now visually impaired or physically impaired. I think that should be something that people explore. What do you reckon of that idea?
You know what? If I can get some people who want me to do it, I'll do it. I'll give it a shot. Like, why not?
Yeah. Even if
Why
it's
not?
even if it's not tattooing, but I think that would be a cool story to share that first, visually impaired tattoo artist has their first client or victim or whatever you want to call them.
Both.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and then if you did art, I mean, you can imagine how simple it would be to transfer that onto a canvas, for example.
Mhm.
um, and have that as part of the entire journey, your life, where you came from, where you ended up, and how you transformed that from being a disability to an ability. And one of the most best examples for that is a young girl who I interviewed on the podcast who had a stroke when she was a very little child. And her parents have supported her to find a way to um, raise some money. And her name is Clara, Clara Woods. I interviewed her mum uh, and her stepdad and the entire family. They're crazy. Um, she had a perinatal stroke, and that was episode 265, 265. And let me tell you, she has like 200,000 subscribers or followers on Instagram or socials or whatever. And she's a teenager now. She's probably just turned 18, something like that. And she paints, man. She paints the most unbelievable, I would call it abstract work. And she sells canvases because she has become known as the young stroke survivor who has um, developed, she's nonverbal,
Okay.
and she has some I think uh, physical deficits as well. The way her muscles work, etc., make it a little bit difficult for her to get around. She's had a lot of therapy and stuff, but she expresses herself in really vibrant colors. There's a lot of hearts in her art. She does little canvases, she does massive ones. And it's just been a real joy to follow their story about how they have the whole family has the same attitude as you. And they've just come together and they're just running with everything that they possibly can to not miss out on anything and not to kind of step back and be kind of one of the many people who are not seen after they have such a thing happen to them. I don't know, I just get really passionate about hearing people saying, I can't paint anymore, I can't express myself anymore because this thing happened to me. I don't know if that's real. I don't know if it's true.
You know what? I like that. Maybe it's not true.
Yeah. I think I might send you that link just so you can have a bit of a look at it. Um, it's just it's heartwarming and it's great to see this person express themselves. And it's great to see that they're turning it into a career or making a few bucks out of it and helping cover the costs because the costs are pretty huge,
Yeah.
as you know. And yeah, it's just, it's something different. I'd like to throw that out there and just challenge people to think about
Yeah.
how that,
Please send me the link.
yeah. I will. I'll send it to you. I'll also put it on the show notes so anyone who's interested in having a look at Clara's story, they can have a bit of a look and get inspired by her and her family. They're just the most amazing, never say die, never quit kind of people, and we need more examples of that. I
Yeah, people gotta have that attitude. Like I think that a majority of my whole recovery has been like just having positivity and like being positive about it.
Yeah. I reckon if I was near you and I wasn't in Australia, like 12,000 miles away or something like that, I don't know how far away we are. Um, I reckon might have been your first tattoo client after stroke because I've never had a tattoo before, and what a perfect way that would have been
Well,
to
then
make it
I guess
happen.
I'm gonna have to come all the way out there and we'll test it out on you.
Absolutely, man. Come and do it. What we'll do is to make it safe so you don't cover my entire arm. What we'll do is like we'd create like a perimeter out of like some kind of a thing, right? Where you could just start drawing and whatever comes
Yeah.
out of it comes out of it. I think it'd be the best way to do it.
I'm totally into it.
And then you can feel your way around that perimeter, where the edges are. So you could maybe create in your mind and in your eyes, some kind of thing that starts with the perimeter. You start on the outside and you work your way in. I don't know what. Like I'm just running with it.
It-
I don't even know if it's
these
appropriate, but
these
there
these
you
are
go.
already good ideas.
Good, good. Well, I hope so, man. I just, I don't know. I get passionate about it. You can tell, and I could over talk about it. So I'll just move on now. I
Well, I
want
think
to,
it's great. I don't have any issue hearing about it.
yeah, good. I'm glad. I just wanted to ask you. So there's a lot of people listening now who have been in your situation, my situation, our situation. They might be early on in the uh, process. They're looking for a little bit of wisdom. They've definitely picked up on heaps of it through the podcast. But is there something that you specifically would like to share with the people watching and listening?
Yeah. No matter what is you've survived this thing. Like this, like life is so good post stroke. You might have had a miserable experience prior to stroke and think that things are going to be worse after, but like you've survived it and you've lived it, and you should focus on that because that's what I did. Like the gratuity of just being alive and keeping that attitude no matter what's come my way, no matter when I've had a bad seizure and ended up in hospital again, no matter if I've fallen or whatever's happened to me, like I still like keep just like I just keep up no matter what. And I think everybody who goes through things like this needs to keep that attitude, even if it's hard. Like I know it's difficult. It's been not like it's just been easy for me to do. It's been a challenge, but I've made sure that I've maintained that no matter what. Like I can do this, and so can they.
Yeah, that's great advice, man. I really appreciate you reaching out to be on the podcast. It is fantastic meeting you and getting to hear your story and to learn from you. I really appreciate the you retelling me what I needed to hear about the way that we should approach recovery, or that's beneficial to approach recovery. Um, it's just been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure for me as well. I really appreciate it.
And that wraps up today's episode with Lorenzo Price. From surviving an AVM rupture to coping with vision loss, delayed diagnosis, and redefining his path forward, Lorenzo's story is a powerful reminder that healing is possible and that creativity, faith, and community can be anchors during recovery. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, a 5-star rating or review really helps more stroke survivors find the show. Remember, my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened, is now available. Just search my name on Amazon or head to recoveryafterstroke.com/book. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch you in the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gasiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.